Welcome to this week's Authors Love Readers podcast, where we delve into the stories behind the stories. We're asking authors questions, some of them fun, some of them serious, and from their answers, you're going to learn things you never knew about the people who write the stories you love. My name is Patricia McLinn. I'm your host and designated question asker.
I'm Ann Charles, and I'm an author who loves readers.
Now, let's start the show. Hello, welcome to this week's edition of Authors Love Readers podcast. I am very excited this week to have Ann Charles as the guest. And one of the reasons is we do not really know each other very well, maybe at all. We know, I feel sort of like I know you because this is going to sound weird to the readers and possibly to you as well, but because your books show up in the also bots of my books on Amazon, it
Right.
almost, and I do this, I tend to feel like I know the authors. I have to remember I don't. So it's so readers who are reading my books are also purchasing your books at the same time. And so there's that link there. Of course, you could say you never see my books in your also bots.
No, that's not true. That's not true. That's why I bugged you to give me a cover quote, because I kept seeing your name and I thought, oh, that's perfect. I need a quote from her.
Well, see, we're also buddies. How's that?
Perfect.
Tell us about what you write.
Well, I write mixed genre. Mainly, the core is mystery. So I always tend to be in the mystery, grouping in stores and online. But it's really a mixed up bag of tricks with mystery. My main marquee series, the Deadwood series, has paranormal. They all have humor. That's one of my big keystones is the laugh, the laugh bit in it all, and always a little bit of romance because I kind of got my feet wet in writing in the romance world. So it's just a big mixed up bag of stuff in my different mystery series that I write.
Tell us about the others. So you have Deadwood, and that's set in Deadwood, South Dakota.
Correct.
And what are the other series?
I have a series called the Jackrabbit Junction mystery series that takes place in southeast Arizona, down in a kind of a mining town area down there in the desert. And I have the Dig Site mystery series, which takes place down in Mexico at different Maya dig sites.
Wow. Okay.
And
Now,
I have a couple more. I have a new one I'm doing it's novellas. It's the AC Silly Circus Company mystery series. It's a traveling freak show, circus type story, and it involves shapeshifters, which I can, if we get back to it later, I can explain why. But
tell
anyway,
us now. Tell us now.
well, I was asked by another wonderful author friend of mine to be part of her Kindle Worlds. And I don't know if you know about Kindle Worlds, where it's somebody has a story and Amazon wants, other writers to write in that world. And I agreed to do one. And she writes paranormal mystery romance. So and they're all shapeshifters and witches and people like that, which was a little outside my paranormal, which tends to be more ghosts and creepy monsters from other, realms. So I agreed, and I had the circus idea with the freaks of the freak, world. So I wrote this novella for that. It's about 25 to 30,000 words. And I put it in the Kindle Worlds, and I kind of said goodbye to them. Here's my one story I'm going to do, playing in that sandbox. Well, Kindle Worlds shut down, and they gave us all our rights back and our books back. So suddenly I had this first book. And even though I wasn't going to write a series, I made it a series in my mind. I kind of built for it just in case, that kind of a thing. So all of a sudden I had this first book back, and I knew I needed to continue the series because I love the characters so much. So that's another series that's a little bit off my normal world grouping, but it's fun. It's crazy.
And we should ordinarily ask you the getting to know you questions, but I'm going to jump into some writing questions because I'm very curious about this. So it strikes me that that what you're writing is one of the wonderful things about indie publishing, that there is a world for that. Or there's a place for those worlds where I wouldn't see traditional being as open to it. Is that not fair?
That's true. I fully believe that. And that's one of the reasons after I went ahead, I tried going up through traditional publishers to get Deadwood, the Deadwood
Mhm.
series published. And I was in, I made it to the final acquisitions meeting at one place, and marketing shot me down on that one. And
Oh, join the
so
crowd.
yeah, so I tried a few routes, and then another one wanted me to they loved my writing, but they wanted me to write their books, their
Yeah.
templates, and I knew I couldn't do it. I'm rotten at following my own outline, let alone somebody else's. So, it was back in 2011 that I published the first in the Deadwood series, my first book, Indie, and it was shortly after I knew, okay, the route I'm taking, it's going to be hard to, ever go into a publishing world with this mix of genres. But, I've carved out a niche here with my fans, and it works well for us.
Yes. Yes. And that, I wonder if traditional will eventually loosen up about that, but they traditional has wanted you to stay within the confines of what would fit in a bookstore where it's had those very broad romance, mystery, sci-fi fiction, and so you couldn't have anything that crossed. It had to fit in one of those, not the others. And I think the readers are benefiting greatly by the indie publishing that does allow the author to have the mix and um, enjoy the combinations and enriching from these different genres. And as we have ebooks and or print books but being sold online, it's so much easier. You don't have to have those firm big categories to be above the shelves on the books in the physical bookstore. You can have a little more leeway. So
There's the mystery categories, and I can fit in the broad mystery, but I often say they're character driven mysteries. It's not just about
mm,
the mystery, the crime. That's part of it, but it's more about all the things going on with the characters in the world, and then trying to figure out the crime for each of the books as well. But the fans tend to, get more into the characters and what's happening with that,
mhm, mhm.
which is
Get
fun.
attached to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because I've really actually have all three of those big series, Dig Site, Jackrabbit, and Deadwood, are all within my Anne's world. So my characters cross over into the other series.
Oh, that's cool.
And
Yeah.
it's really fun for the readers because all of a sudden so and so just showed up in this series, and some are related, and it just makes it really more, to me, more like it's real. Here's
Yeah.
so and so, the cousin, and
Yeah.
she's over here now for this book. So it's a lot of fun to play with too as an author. It frees me up a little bit.
Okay, let's get to know you some things. I'll start off with a mean one. Do you have any strong fears? Share. And then do you ever use them in a book?
Okay, and you'll laugh, but there's a reason. I struggle with cows, and I heard, I told you, it comes from being a kid doing chores on the farm and the fear of being trampled.
Oh.
And then spending time out west and hiking and coming across free range cattle, out there, and bulls glaring me down. Uh, there's something, if I'm out and about, even in my vehicle, and I come across a bunch of, cows in the road just meandering, and like, get out of here, shoot, shoot, shoot. And it's irrational. And not that they could trample me in a vehicle, but I still have that crazy fear of a cow. And if a cow and I had to stand on the street together, I would run the other way. It's crazy. And my husband gets a good laugh out of that periodically. And the other thing I do not do well with are zombies. Oh, that whole eating my brains business. My brother is always he's an artist. He does my cover art and illustrations, and he's always been into monsters since we were kids. He would draw Frankenstein and Dracula, all that kind of stuff. And he would tell me scary stories about what was out in the barn waiting for me on winter nights when I had to feed the cows.
So,
Yeah.
what's a surprising job you've held, Anne?
Well, a long time ago, I used to string fishnets at this little
Really?
small family owned. Yeah, I'd sit there, music playing, and I'd spend the whole day putting the netting on the I don't know, the framework. It lasted about 3 months, and then I was so bored, I couldn't handle it anymore, and I went and got a job at a fast food place because flipping burgers sounded so much better than stringing fishnets.
Oh, was
So,
it?
yeah,
Was
because
it? Okay.
there's more to go with flipping burgers. You can go back in the cooler and eat the cookie dough. Shh, don't tell them I did that. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff like that when you're in. I was fortunate. I worked third shift while going through my first college to get my associates, and we're not supposed to eat the food, but we're third shift, and there's 3 of us running the show. And I would make these elaborate sandwiches with hamburger, ham, roast beef, 3
Oh
cheeses,
my
bacon,
gosh.
mayo, and then I'd have the fries and I'd make the shake and I'd do all this. This was out of high school. Needless to say, 30 pounds later, I had to stop. It was like, oh boy, you don't play sports anymore, girl, so you can't eat like this. You're
Wow.
sitting in a college chair, a chair at a desk. And so it was fun. I mean, it was a good time for a
Where
short
was
time. And
this?
on the Ohio Turnpike. I worked at a fast food restaurant on the Ohio Turnpike.
Okay.
So we were 24/7 year round. I used to be front line. I was front line for the longest time at the register, and I reached my tolerance, and some trucker came in and was in a bad mood and yelled at me, and I said, "Look at where you're at. You're on the turnpike. You can't get off unless you pay. So we don't really need your business because there's other people that will come here." And at that point, my manager said, "You're off front line. Go to the back and start learning how to cook." So,
So, what's your favorite taste?
oh, anything sweet. I am just a sugar nut. It can be chocolate. It can one time I'm not Catholic, but I had friends that were, and I for Lent they were going off things. So
Mm.
I said, okay, I won't eat chocolate. And I didn't, but I found all the different sugary things that are out there that replaced it with not a problem. So I just anything sweet, I tend to gravitate toward. My favorite being frozen Coke slushies,
Oh,
icy,
interesting.
slurpy, whatever you want to call it. That's
Yeah.
been my favorite since a kid, and I celebrate book releases. Everything my kids know if we have frozen Coke Fridays after school to celebrate they made it through the week and to give me my hit of frozen Coke Slurpee. So sweet. It's anything to do with that. Desserts. It's my thing.
How do you make sure the Coke doesn't get like frozen solid, too frozen?
It spins. Oh boy, don't. I'm a connoisseur, so
Ah,
I if I wasn't doing this writing gig, I would go to 7-Eleven and I would beg them to let me go from 7-Eleven to 7-Eleven and test the Slurpee machines for taste and consistency and give ratings across the states. They spin and it refreshes after so long, it'll melt down and then freeze again, and there's this whole process they do. And
oh,
then if you get the
cool.
right certain cups will affect it a certain way when you're drinking it. It's really quite sad how well I know about frozen Coke slushies.
I see a book coming.
Well, I often make my kids promise when I'm old that if they put me in a home, they'll bring me a slushie every Friday.
There you go. That's a good thing. I would have it in writing though. Make
Good
'em sign.
idea.
Make it a contract. Okay, how about a favorite color?
Purple.
Do you know why? Do you have an association with it? Is
No, I just was born and it was purple. I
Oh,
don't know. It's my mom says it's always been purple. I have the on the front of the Deadwood series, the purple boots.
okay. Most of us writers have at least one bad habit word that shows up in our manuscripts, and we know enough to go back and search and delete or search and replace. Um, what's your bad habit word or phrase or structure?
Well, like so many, just sneaks in everywhere.
Oh, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
I don't know why we use it. I would like to know, do we use it that much in conversation or is it just when we write? I just when we write, see?
Mhm.
Um, so there's that one. And another word that I watch out for, and there's a reason, is the word get, Get,
Hmm.
got and get.
Mhm.
My high school English teacher would grade every paper on 25 points was the max, and that was an A plus, of course. Then you go down from there. Well, he had a rule that every time in your homework, whatever you did, if you would use the word get or got, you lost a point.
Ooh,
So 5 gets or gots, and you're already down in C territory, sinking fast.
wow.
And yeah, my first year of it, boy, I really struggled to get those out of there. And by senior year, we all had it down. So whenever I write the word get, and it tends to come up often because it's
Yes.
a good lazy verb, but I really come on, there's something else. And
Can I lose
unless
a point for this?
I right, it's still there. Unless whatever I think of doesn't replace it. There's sometimes that you get married. I
Mhm.
mean, that's just a get one. Otherwise, if I can replace it, I'll go back through and try to replace any that slipped in there.
That's an interesting one. I'll have to remember that. And, the thing about just in conversation, I think that sometimes in conversation, the tone can carry where maybe we use very or just or, and
Right.
to get it across in the written word is harder. But yeah, just is one of mine. It's a crutch. Um,
Yes.
I delete them after I've written them. But I don't see them
But
until I'm going back and doing word searches for them. Oh dear. How about a childhood book or when you knew that, what got you addicted to story?
well, there was one childhood book that always pops into my mind. When people say, readers ask me, what did you read as a kid that got you wanting to tell stories? And it's, Sesame Street, the
Mm,
monster at the end of this book with Grover.
uh-huh.
Um, so since I was a little kid, he was so dang scared about that monster at the end of the book. And even after I knew how it ended, he did such a good job of being so freaked out, I'd be scared with him. "Oh, don't turn that page, don't turn that page." And it's so silly, but it's a great story if you think about it, because it's the twist at the end. And so it got me
Mm.
liking suspense and mystery mixed with the twist
And
at the end.
monsters.
And monsters, yeah.
That's great. Um, I have my strange little desert island. It does have the ability to play movies, but only three. So you have to watch the same three movies over and over and over, and you are stuck on this desert island for a long, unspecified amount of time. Which three movies are you going to choose?
Tremors, The Mummy, and Twister. And you don't know it, but I'm gonna sneak in the back of my bathing suit bottoms, I'm gonna sneak 13th Warrior in with me too.
Interesting. Okay. I don't know that last one. 13th Warrior?
13th
Yeah.
Warrior, Antonio Banderas, Vikings.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay. So strong
it,
adventure thread through all of those, I would say.
yes, yes, with a little bit of romance mixed in
Mm,
them.
interesting. Okay. And yet very different as I'm thinking about them.
Yeah, they're just over the years. It's been each series I write has each one has inspired the different series in different in ways. The Mummy, she's librarian. The Egyptian archaeology stuff, that's dig site. my archaeology mystery series. So, in the Tremors, the desert is a lot with Jackrabbit
Mm.
Junction Jitters down in the desert, Sonoran Desert, different deserts, but it's a similar feel. Twister, I just always loved Twister. I don't know why. And watched it before, motivation writing books a lot of times, just the characters, the dialogue, the fun grouping of people.
Mm-hmm. More reality
And I
based.
just like, right. And 13th Warrior is, I just love the lines the Vikings say. They have no fear. They're going into battle, and they just have no fear about what they're doing. And they go forth and the bravery and stuff in that. But yet the hero, Antonio Banderas, he's not one of them. He's been pulled in as the 13th warrior and he's nervous. He's afraid of stuff. And so he's in with these tough, battle guys that don't even think about going to battle. And he's just kind of like has to boost, himself up each time. So there's something about that that's just fun.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and more I want to hear you talk about, Anne, is the really interesting story worlds. Do you create those ahead of time, or are they being created as you write? I'm thinking especially about Deadwood, but each of your story worlds.
I would say Deadwood's been really interesting. When I wrote that first book, Nearly Departed in Deadwood, I honestly intended to write a single title. It wasn't going to be a series. I wrote a single title book about, a woman with twins in Deadwood, hard luck story. She's a realtor trying to, make do with this new job and raise her two kids on her own, basically. And it wasn't in solve mysteries. It just, I didn't have this grand, huge plan for a series that's on 9 and growing still.
Mm.
And that came out, and then I wrote the second and the third. And my mom is one of my readers. She lives right there in the Deadwood area, and she says to me every book, "How do you do it? I keep thinking you're going to have to start wrapping stuff up." And she said, "And then you write another book, and it opens a whole new tangent of story that I'm so curious about what's going to happen with that now." And that's been Deadwood. It's deep. It's like the underground mine, the big Homestake mine that's in Lead that just goes deep, deep and wide. And I just feel like the Deadwood series is like that. It's a story world that I'm learning about as I go and learning what Violet really is, in the paranormal realm as well, and what everybody's roles are and how it all plays out. So, and I love, I didn't initially intend it to go this paranormal mixed with a mystery. It was just going to be ghosts. But once
Oh.
I started playing in that realm, it opened it up wide. It just made the mystery possibilities huge, and all the different ways and all the different things that could come at her and all the different things to solve and fix and all that stuff. So, that story world just keeps blossoming bigger and bigger. It's just crazy. And then the other ones, the same with the dig site. When you start going into the Maya history, oh boy, there's so much that happened down there way, way back, and all the cities and stuff and all the underworld and the beliefs they had that I look at that and I go, oh no, here's another one. This thing's going to go big. You find that vein, and it's a very thick vein, and you're going, whoa, look at that. It's the mother lode again. So they're really kind of going on their own.
So you did not plot out ahead of time what those story worlds were going to be. They have organically come to be.
No, I'd like to tell everyone I am so smart that I plotted this all ahead of time. I'm just brilliant that way. But most days it's lucky thing if I can wear the same shoes. So I really shoot from the hip type of girl and just open to what
See, Anne,
comes.
you've got to get the right spin on it. You are so brilliant, you don't need to plot it out ahead of time. It comes naturally.
Oh boy. Yeah, that would make my family laugh.
Now, one
Definitely.
of the things, like
Yeah.
in the Deadwood, you use legends from other cultures,
Uh-huh.
do you then stick to their rules kind of? Or are you, and the same thing with the Mayan, are you constrained by what they in fact believed or what their legends were? Or do you feel that you can morph them to either the story needs or your whim?
Well, because so much is legend, folklore, myth, I'll take elements of what is believed, what's pretty firmly believed, and pull that into my world and then tweak it because really it's only what has been passed down. And we know as humans, things passed down verbally aren't always totally accurate, you know? It changes with every generation on what really happens. So I try to keep some of it to give the readers, if they were to look up, you know, one of the creatures or something I mentioned, they'll read and see, oh yeah, it's what Anne talked about. But then I morph things somewhat to fit my story and what I need to accomplish and what's happening.
Now, I wanted to get into some of the questions from the readers, and we'll start with the classic. And this reader says, "Where do your stories come from?" She says, "I know an author who dreams her stories. Another has a character suddenly taking up residence in her head. So, how are your beautiful stories born?" I always like to read that part because she says our stories are beautiful.
Oh, I know.
Mhm.
That's nice. It depends. You know, the first Jackrabbit story, Dance of the Winnebagos, in my Jackrabbit series, I was playing Hangman with a coworker when we were supposed to be working. And she said, or she wrote out on the board, she put the spaces in some of the letters. And the answer was actually Hounds of the Baskerville. And I said, Dance of the Winnebagos. And she said, what is that? When the heck is that? And I said, I don't know, but I think it's a great
Disagree.
title. It just gives me this idea of all these retirees and their RVs coming in the dance that's going to happen when they all get together. So, you know, that was the whole inspiration for that series, the setting, the whole thing. The Dig Site series, the first one in that, I was sitting in a college class on Mexican history, staring out the window at the snowfall up in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it just popped in my mind, this female archaeologist, and we were talking about the Maya at the time. So it just formed that way. And Deadwood came from being pregnant and going to visit my mom and seeing, you know, the mine had just shut down up in Lead or semi recently, and work was hard to come by. So, what would it be like being a single mother with kids up here? What would I do for a living? So, a lot of times it's just situations that pop things into my head. Sometimes it's somebody, you know, I woke up and my eyes were sewn shut. What? You know, and then the story just comes into your head with the whole thing. What was happening? So I haven't ever dreamed an idea. It tends to be more weird titles that hit me funny, you know, or situations that make me go, what really happened there?
So, after one of these ideas comes into your head, now a lot of civilians, non-writers would think, well, then you have your story, you have your book. But as a writer, I will ask you, how do you go from that seed, that idea, to having a completed book, to making it into a book?
Well, like how the title for Dance of the Winnebagos came to me, I tend to need the title. It's the oddest thing. I can't think it through without knowing the title. I have to know what I'm writing. Which is such an odd part of it because your title can change, and once in a while it has changed for me, but once I get that title, then I can come up with the theme that I wanna run with and go forth. Once the theme comes, then I can come up with the premise and the story question, and it just kinda goes from there. So, if I see a situation, I start daydreaming about, you know, something that's gonna happen regarding to what I saw or what I thought, but then I'll just go, "We need a title." That I mean, I think of that as my right brain going, "We need a title before we can start." Or maybe it's my left brain coming in, you know, ordering the right brain about, "Shut up, quit daydreaming, and think of a title so I can write it down on my process sheet, and then we can start." It's such a funny, and I know all of us writers, we have our brains are so interesting the way they work to come up with these stories. But time and again, it'll go back to, well, what title am I using? My circus one, the second circus, it took me a while because a circus is just crazy titles until I came up with the one I'm working on, a bunch of monkey malarkey. And once I had that, oh, it just fell into place because these crazy monkey brothers and what they're going to do. So that title is just such a key thing in my crazy head.
One of the readers also asks, if you where you write, do you have a favorite place, and does it have an inspirational view? And I always connect that with, then, do you have a routine?
Well, I have 2 kids, and nothing is routine in my life since they came along. Before them, I was very routine, I'd like to say, and I even balanced my checkbook. Now, I just hope the money's in there, when I write the check. But I have an office with all my books and all my stuff. So I have a place where everything gets piled up, basically. But I sometimes sit there. I sometimes sit at the dining room table. I sometimes sit on the couch. A lot of times I like to sit on my back patio. Just right there, I take my laptop, and that's where it's so wonderful to have laptops because you can go wherever to write and enjoy the scenery. I get bored of the same place is my problem, and if I sit there too long, then it becomes a torture thing. I have to sit
Mm.
at that thing and I have to write there, and it's horrible. It's a job. It's a horrible job. So I think if I move around, it makes me feel like, I can work wherever. This is a great job. It's a mental game, right? It's always
It definitely is.
how to get over something. So I don't really have a set place. I go all over the place if I can. And it drives my family crazy because there I am sitting with my laptop writing, and I'll give them a frown, and they're like, "You're in my bedroom. What are you doing here? Come on. Well, go in my bedroom. I'm using yours right now to write." What was the second part of your question? I can't remember that now.
Well, you cover if you have a routine.
Oh, the routine. That's right. Yeah. And I don't have a set time either because, I try to write when the kids are in school, but then there's always appointments that come up and things that happen in the
Mm,
day.
mm.
So sometimes I try to write late into the night. As I get older, that gets harder because I like my sleep more, I think. But um, I don't have, the set routine either. I wish I had a routine. Maybe I'd be a really good writer if I did that. But
Do you try to write like a certain number of words a day or a certain number of pages, or
when I'm in the thick of trying to get a book done, because I have my own deadlines, and then I'm pretty strict with myself about hitting a deadline. Um, so when I'm in the midst of that and in the middle of a book, I will aim for 2,000 a day minimum to just plow through, keep plowing through and plowing through. And I write, my books tend to be the full lengths tend to be 125 to 140. So I can't dilly dally too much because there's a lot. They're just beasts, and I've got to get them done and out on the time I set. Unfortunately, I always aim for 120 and they come out 10,000 or so more. And it's a running joke with my critique partner, and I try to write a novella and it comes out 60,000 to
oh
80,000.
yeah,
What are you
I'm with
doing?
you there. Yes.
I don't know. It just kept coming. Can't cap it. It's like an oil well that's gone.
Do you miss, yeah, you talked about this a little bit, but this is a question from a reader, so I want to come back to it. And she asks, do you miss the characters, and think about the characters once you've finished a book? And then is that what's leading you to write series, do you think? Because you did say you think about them and they're still in your head.
Very much so. I love that all I have to do is say, pause. You guys just stand here for a little bit. I'm going to go over here to, I'm going to go from Deadwood down to Jackrabbit, Arizona, and I'm going to hang out at the bar down there for a while. So you guys up here in Deadwood, just chill. Go in the green room, stand around, have some drinks. I'll be back later. I love that I don't have to say goodbye. That was the thing with this circus novella, really made me sad because I had to say goodbye to him. And I was supposed to write a book that I didn't care about the characters too much, but I did, and I botched that up, and then I had to say goodbye, and it broke my heart. So when the news came that Kindle Worlds was shutting down, a lot of authors were pretty upset, but I was kind of happy because I got my
Yeah.
characters back, and I could
Yep.
go on and continue writing them.
Yeah, I told myself I did one Kindle Worlds and I told myself that there were characters who would not otherwise have gotten their story told. Um, because it was originally envisioned as book 3 of a 4-book series, and the
Uh-huh.
traditional publisher didn't like that story, and I always liked it. So I that was my recycling, bringing it back, and now I have a chance to go back and bring those characters back again, and I really like that idea because it did bother me, even though I told myself they wouldn't have life otherwise, that having them off, I'm gesturing off away from my other books, not in the, not mixed in, um, definitely, definitely tugged at me. So that will be fun to do.
It really has been. I having done it now, and bringing it in, even though it's not like I have tons of time to write yet another series,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of fun, and it's just a great break from the other stuff, the other series things I do. So,
So when you come
um,
up with an idea, do you already know which of the series it's going to go into? Are you disciplined about doing a book per series, like in a cycle? Do you have ideas that, oh, okay, I have this idea now, but it's not that series turn. It's going to, and it fits better in this other series. How do you allocate stories and series, and how do you keep feeding each series?
well, the Deadwood and Jackrabbit books, well, and the dig site as well. There's a timeline. There's an overall Anne's World timeline. And I didn't think about it when I started this. I mean, my original plan wasn't to have this big one world and connect. It grew organically that way into, everything mixing together. And early on I realized Deadwood and Jackrabbit are coming close together on that timeline. But with the Deadwood series, most of the stories take place within 2 weeks on the
Mm-hmm.
page,
Mm-hmm.
where the Jackrabbit tends to go a month or two in between books. So it's once I got them closer together, it's the timeline that is now driving which book comes next. Which one it fits better on this overall timeline because I have characters crossing over. And if I'm going to have the character over here,
It can't be,
it
but
has to,
yeah.
right, I have to make it fit on the timeline. And so that's really now driving what comes next. I used to just be Deadwood, Jackrabbit, Deadwood, Dig Site, Deadwood, Jackrabbit. And Deadwood always is in between because it's the fans are the most voracious, and I always joke that they'll hunt me down if I don't write a Deadwood in between every book, and they will do the old put me in the basement with chains and make me write it. So I have to keep writing Deadwood in between everything. But yeah, now it's the timeline really drives what comes next in my to do pile. And because of that, I surprised everyone with The Gone Haunting, my book released back in May, because it was really time to write a Jackrabbit. And I had written the last one before that was Deadwood number 8, and I didn't tell anybody. I kept it a big secret. And I published Deadwood number 9 and surprised him. I didn't say it. And my first draft readers and my beta readers were so wonderful. They kept the secret with me.
Oh, good for them.
So, and I decided this year, for some reason, at the beginning of the year, everybody was announcing their schedules. Authors I know putting out what they were going to write, all the stuff they were going to do. And first of all, I just about fell off my chair at some of the stuff, all the work they're doing, because I thought, oh
I
my
know.
gosh, I'm so slow. And so then I decided, you know what? I'm not going to say anything about what I'm doing. It's going to be one big, long year of surprises to see what comes next. And so it started out, my fans, which one are what are you writing? What are you writing? And I kept saying it's going to be a surprise. And after a while, they were like, oh, Anne, fine, whatever, you're going to surprise us. And then they started guessing. I think it's going to be this. I think it's going to be this. So that was a lot of fun to watch. what they thought might be. And then when I released Gone Haunting, it was so fun to see the surprise and the excitement and all that stuff that came with that book. And still this year, I'm open about the circus book because that kind of came around as a surprise to me. But otherwise, I'm not telling what I'm putting out, what's coming next. I'm still in the surprise mode, and it's fun because now they're playing the game with me, and we have fun with it. So it's kind of fun to go.
One of the questions that a reader asks, is about when the cover doesn't match the character description. But with your history and with your brother doing the artwork for Deadwood, does he do it for the other series?
He does. He does it for all my books except the Deadwood shorts, which are stock images or pictures taken. But otherwise, all the other books are his art, his
So,
cover pieces.
do you ever have artistic disagreements with him about how it should be? Because you don't have a face, but you have the character, and the character on the cover for the Deadwood I'm talking about has a definite approach. So, how do
Yes.
you guys work on that together?
Well, I learned long ago when working with people with different elements, with the different jobs they do helping me, to learn their strengths and give them what they need, but let them have their, use go to their strengths with what they know and how to incorporate stuff in. So, with that in mind, for my brother, I will say, here's the story, here's an overall thing, what I'm thinking is going to happen. Here's the scene I'd kind of like to be on the front, and with the Deadwood series, we always have a weapon of some sort. And I'll say, sometimes I've said, you come up with the weapon and I will incorporate it into the story
Oh.
and let him, because he, like I said, he grew up during monsters. He's very much into horror and all kinds of stuff. So we think a lot alike in that way. And sometimes part of the fun is for me to see what weapon he comes up with, and then I write it in. Other times, I will say, I think we need to have her standing this way or maybe running, but he's the artist, and I say, movement better than I do. He knows shadow, movement, layout, perspective, what's going to, or at least perspective. So I leave that to him and say, these are my, key elements I want. And I'll show him some pictures sometimes of ideas. I get off the internet, and then I say, put him, in there how you think that they would be, their body movement. So it's really, a lot of times it's a collaboration in that way. And then with the cover design, taking those pieces, which are individual pieces of art, and then, my husband now has to make everything fit perspective wise and look right and pop. One of the words that everybody gets sick of me saying is, it's got to pop. It's not popping enough. Make it pop, right?
Can you tell a family story? Have you ever rejected any of your brother's images?
No, not for cover art. I've said, I need her hand to be, this way. It's got to be this way. But for the most part, what he does is he takes the idea and he does a rough sketch. He used to live for
Oh.
4 years. We've lived apart. He lived up in Washington after I moved to Arizona, but now he lives down here in Phoenix. So I was able to go last weekend and just go sit at his table with him
Oh, cool.
while he did it.
Yeah.
And just he would show me a sketch and I'm like, "No, I think it needs to be this," or, "Oh, I like that." And then we just kept working, and then what was really fun this time was I got to pick colors with all his art pencils and
Ah.
stuff and make all these different colors and stuff. So I love that I can, when he's close and I can do that, and we work together that way. And I like to let him decide on, like I said, the body movement, how a hand would look, things, because he's the artist. I am not. But he knows that. And I trust his, he's been doing this a long time, so I trust his
Oh,
abilities.
that's terrific. Um, okay, well, now we are to my very favorite part. This is the rapid fire either ors. And uh, I will say you have either or,
Okay.
not both.
Okay. I will try.
No negotiating.
It's just like when I go to get my eyes tested and he says, "Is this better or is this? Is this better or is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, I can't decide."
I can't either. I feel such anxiety with that. I feel like I'm gonna get the wrong prescription or, they're gonna think I'm blind when I'm
I know,
not
and
or
for a year, I won't be able to see anything because I screwed that part up. I was like,
yeah,
yeah.
yep. Okay. This has fewer consequences. Spring or fall?
Fall,
Ice cream or cake?
cake,
Cruise or trekking vacation?
trekking,
Nail polish or bare
bare
nails?
nails.
Leggings or sweats?
Oh, sweats,
Sailboat or motorboat?
motorboat,
Mustard or ketchup?
ketchup,
Winter Olympics or Summer Olympics?
winter,
Coffee or tea?
coffee.
Cat or dog?
Oh, cat,
Hot air balloon or train trip?
train,
Daisies or roses?
daisies,
Appetizer or dessert?
dessert,
Heels or slippers?
slippers,
Hiking boots or cowboy boots?
cowboy boots.
Pickup or sports car?
Oh, pickup.
House decorating or gardening?
Gardening. I don't like either.
Paper plates or best china?
Paper plates.
Day or night?
Night.
Opera or show tunes?
Show tunes.
Binge watch or make the watching last as long as possible?
Oh, binge. I'm a binger.
And this is, no, I'm going to give you another one. Which do you find eerier? Owl hooting or coyotes howling?
Coyotes howling.
Okay. And then this is the last one. Grab the best for first or save the best for last?
Always save the best for last. Eat all your vegetables first, get through that mess, and then save the steak for last. Or dessert for last, yeah.
Thank you so much, Anne. It's been a lot of fun. I really appreciate your coming on this week, and I hope you enjoyed it too.
It was fun. Thank you for having me. This was great. I'm so glad to get to know you, and this is the closest we can come to having coffee without flying, right?
Right, absolutely true. And thanks to you listeners. Hope you'll come back next week and hear another author and the stories behind that author's stories. In the meantime, have a great week of reading. That's the show for this week. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for joining Authors Love Readers podcast. Remember, you can always find out more about our guest authors in the show notes, and you can find out more about me at www.patriciamclinn.com. You can also send in questions to be asked of future authors at podcast@authorslovereaders.com. Until next week, wishing you lots of happy reading. Bye.